It's unsure whether the planned weekend detention centre would be built outside or within the walls of Maitland Jail. Either way, its location would be close to neighbouring schools and populated residential areas. No formal application has been submitted to Maitland Council and the Mayor was unaware of the move.
I found out about it only yesterday and it was complete news to me. Maitland City Council has not in any way, shape or form considered this proposal.
The $3 million facility would house around 180 offenders who committed minor to moderate offences. A similar proposal for Wallsend was rejected late last year because of community outrage. A spokesperson for the Department of Corrective Services says the Minister has identified a need for such a facility in the Hunter. Member for Maitland, Peter Blackmore, says the issue has been badly handled.
Tomorrow I'm going to see the Minister, Wayne Merton, personally and demand to be told as to what is the proposal for this electorate and also to alert him of my concerns as well as the concerns of the people in the electorate as well as the concerns of the Maitland City Council.
Alderman G says he doubts Council would give the green light to such a controversial facility.
We would seek public response to it. I'm sure we would receive lots of criticisms and complaints. Therefore, the matter would then go before full council. I imagine, without preempting council's decision, it would probably be thrown out at the end of the day.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
In Sydney, pollution readings have been readily available. Now residents of Newcastle and Lake Macquarie can receive updated information on air quality. The readings are taken twice daily from air monitoring stations in Wallsend, Beresfield and National Park Street in the city. A station is also planned for the Katara-Charlestown area. Over the phone, you're given an overall classification and a breakdown for each area on the level of pollutants, including nitrogen dioxide, present during the last 24 hours. 0 to 24 is a low pollution day. Between 25 and 49 is a medium reading, while 50 and over is a high pollution day.
I'm confident that in fact people are going to be pleasantly surprised that compared with Sydney and overall the Newcastle air quality is going to show up to be consistently fairly good.
The EPA hopes that within a few months it will be able to determine which pollutants are causing problems in which areas and eventually even forecast pollution levels. The phone number for the pollution readings is 269691. That phone number is available 24 hours. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Day 5 of the Miners' March now pounding the pavements of Sydney's North Shore, despite most of the New Val Colliery miners showing the scars of the 150 kilometres trek so far. Their spirits appear to be high. The public's response along the way serving to nurture their resolve.
Constant hoot of horns and all of the commercial centres that we've gone through have donated foodstuffs and money and drinks.
But how do they really feel?
It's been
That finish line is Parliament House. There the miners hope to secure state government's help in convincing Pacific Power to let them reopen and operate New Val Colliery, which was closed 3 months ago.
We want jobs, we want to work. You know, we can see making money with $13 million in export for the country. It's 150, 200 jobs we're talking about all up.
Tomorrow the miners will hold a rally under the Harbour Bridge before marching on Parliament House. They aim to turn the final leg into not only a march for their cause, but a walk for work involving all unemployed people. Catherine Lamond, NBN News. World War II was half a century ago, and for some it's a mere distant memory. But for a group of Australian sailors who gathered in Newcastle today, the memories are very vivid. They were here for a 50th anniversary memorial service commemorating the torpedoing of a Yugoslavian merchant vessel called Racina by a Japanese submarine off the Australian coast while the Racina was in convoy under naval escort. 68-year-old Terry Rolls from Newcastle was one of the Racina's 10 survivors, and for a brief moment he recalled the torpedoing.
I couldn't run any further, so I jumped. It was too high to dive. And by the time I got in the water and came up, I thought, well, the suction will get me, so I took off my life, you know.
Most of those gathered served on board HMAS Moresby, the ship which picked up Terry and the other survivors. The venue for today's service is to become the site of a merchant mariners memorial.
The latest target was the mobile service station on the corner of Turton and Young Roads, New Lambton. A man aged about 25 levelled a shortened shotgun at the attendant and took a small amount of money from the till. A police dog was soon on the bandits' heels. The dog followed a scent for some blocks before losing the trail. It's thought the robber may have escaped by car from that point. A nearby Caltex service station was robbed a few nights before by a gunman. The police dog got its man after another hold-up at Edgeworth a couple of weeks ago, tracking a suspect who'd escaped on foot through 2 suburbs. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
Under the guidance of Education Officer Michael Davison, these students at St Teresa's Primary School are experiencing Aboriginal culture firsthand. The dance lesson was part of a month-long program aimed at creating more awareness and understanding of Aboriginal history, from Dreamtime to the 90s. Because of its success, the program will continue throughout the year, helping to spread an important message.
I'm basically making an investment in Australia's future because these people are going to be more aware than their parents of Aboriginal issues, and therefore these are the ones that's going to break down all the barriers.
Meanwhile, another message was shared at Waratah Public today. The Environmental Puppet Show supports an education program, a joint initiative between the Hunter Water Corporation and the Education Department. This special kit, a resource package for teachers, will be used to support environmental studies now underway in all Hunter primary schools.
This is the time when we've got to get them. If we get them now, they'll know about the environment for the whole of their lives, and hopefully they'll influence their brothers and sisters and parents, and that'll stay with us forever.
With only a few days to go, last year's winner Gary Walden is taking things easy, running the family flower farm on the Central Coast. 12 months ago, Walden became a motorsport hero with his win in the marathon event, despite dramatic problems with his car's brakes.
Yeah, really, the brake pads in the car aren't designed to go motor racing. The car stops very well. It's probably the best stopping car in the field, but we haven't got a great pad thickness, so our actually brake pad material is very thin. So we've got to be a bit more gentle on the brakes than, say, probably the factory Porsches.
The win was just what Mazda needed to give their turbo RX-7 credibility.
You know, as they say, win on Sunday, sell on Monday, so I think they're very keen to win this year.
Walden wants to build on that success and make the RX-7 as popular with supporters as the Holdens and Fords. He says the 12-hour is a touring car driver's biggest challenge because the Bathurst weather can change dramatically in each 3-hour stint behind the wheel.
The start of the race is a bit of a worry because you can get, ice and dew and everything laying on the track. So it does start at 5:30 in the morning, so the track's dark. It is dark. That's probably the most worrying point of it, and thunderstorms in the afternoon.
Walden intends to remain calm in the race lead-up, staying on the farm until the day before time trials. Darren Curtis, NBN News. Moss Rocket has been a trainer's delight. The 2-year-old has already won more than $200,000 for his owners, and if he comes up trumps on Saturday, will near the $2 million mark.
It's not a dream come true, it's just something that you don't even dream of, that you got a golden slipper runner, let alone a good chance in it, you know.
Newcastle jockey Alan Robinson has ridden him for all his major wins and believes he is the best horse he's been on in his 10 years of riding.
Oh, he's like driving a Rolls Royce, I suppose. You've probably heard that saying before, but no, he is one. You know, he just falls out the barrier. You know, he's on terms with him after 2 strides.
Those in the know agree. Moss Rocket is 10-1 with the bookies, but will come into favourite if it rains. His handlers are confident he'll win. They say his temperament has improved at race time.
And this morning I even noticed he settled in his work, and yeah, I think he can go through it. Even here in the Coca-Cola Classic, he sort of put his head on his chest and sat outside the leader. You know, he's become more relaxed.
The Golden Slipper will be shown live on NBN this Saturday during Wide World of Sports.
Not the usual spooky surrounds you'd expect to find a ghost in, as work continues dead on time for the Civic's multi-million-dollar redevelopment. But as legend has it, there's been a supernatural presence haunting the theatre since the early 30s. The venue was a regular meeting place for 2 lovers. But the young man by the name of Joe took his life in the building when his childhood sweetheart was sent away to school in Europe.
They vowed that they'd wait for one another. Well, evidently it seemed like that she wasn't coming back, and Joe shot himself in the old toilet in the theatre, and he vowed that he'll be still there waiting for her.
Alderman Frank Rigby is convinced the legend is true.
And I'm not the sort of fellow who goes around seeing ghosts, but I have actually spoken to the man. He was a guy of about, maybe 20 at the outside, and just dressed ordinary, and the ordinariest sort of a guy you'd ever meet.
Alderman Rigby says it was during that conversation Joe told him he was quite pleased about plans for the theatre's facelift, despite the noise. And it seems Joe has kept out of the way of most workers, although some have been spooked.
Boss sent me out to get some gear, and I was coming back down, and there was just a shadow going across the wall. I don't know what it was. There's no certain shape about it.
And so the legend lives on, and who knows, maybe one day soon when the theatre has been restored to its former glory, you'll get to see him too.
I'm sure that we are going to see quite a bit more of Joe, or hear quite a bit more of Joe. He is there, there's no doubt about that.
Carrington residents say their community is doing more than its share to help those in need. A number of welfare organisations provide services for the unemployed, the homeless and the sick. The Salvation Army, already operating a women's shelter, has set up a halfway house for alcohol and drug-addicted men in Gipp Street. Ron Haynes from the newly formed Consultative Committee says it's the straw breaking the community's back.
They don't know who the people in there, they don't know on what sort of state they're in. And it's a fear. It's a great fear to those people. Enough's enough.
Men are very sensible people who are coming to grips with their problem, certainly would not be irrational in their approach to life, and they would be no different to a normal household.
Major Noel Reeve says it's a cold turkey program with strict house rules and regulations. Because the house is defined as a transitional group home, not permanent, the program needs council approval before residents can legally occupy the premises. It's a complicated issue now before Newcastle City's Director of Planning Services. Council's Planning Division says it's caught between a rock and a hard place. Without an approved development application, it can't condone the halfway house. On the other hand, it says it's sensitive to the program's success. A decision on the future of the halfway house is expected within the next few weeks. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
A pair of Victorian brothers were just dots on a big ocean after setting out on another leg of their voyage. They've been paddling up the coast since New Year's Day. Gary and Andrew Thompson from Glen Waverley put into Newcastle for a few days, waiting out big seas. The pair have no support boat or vehicle and are carrying everything they need in their canoes. The brothers pitched their tent at the Stockton Caravan Park, sharing meals and stories with residents. With the swell abating, they took to the sea again. They're heading for Port Stephens and a sheltered stretch of the voyage inside the Myalls.
I declare Mr Robert Hodges Horn duly elected as the member to serve in the House of Representatives of the Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia for the division of Paterson. I would like to congratulate Mr Horn on his achievement and ask him if he would like to address this gathering.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I feel very humbled.
The Nishinasuno Choir, children all aged between 9 and 11, is visiting Newcastle at the invitation of the Waratah Girls Choir as part of a student exchange program. The choir is from the city of Ottawa, north of Tokyo, and hosted the Waratah Choir in 1991. Fresh from their flight and excited to be in a different country, the students today performed at a special concert at Cardiff High School. As part of their week-long stay, the group will combine with the Waratah Girls Choir in an Australian friendship concert at City Hall on Sunday.
John Schuster's dramatic exit 2 weeks ago at training, thanks to a strained thigh muscle, opened the way for Brunker to take over the duties. The step up is the result of hard work, but has put more pressure on his own game. Brunker wants to correct any faults that could cost the side a win and has been putting in some intense work to improve his accuracy.
I rather like it. I like the extra bit of pressure and it gives you more to do in the game.
Brunker and teammate Robbie O'Davis have both been picked in the 30-man train-on squad for the Queensland State of Origin team. O'Davis's selection has come after some pretty impressive performances on the wing. Last week he chased down every kick downfield and finally collected a try for his efforts.
Reading the game, I think that probably comes from me days at 5'8". I always played 5'8" when I was a young fella, and I'm not too old now, of course. But probably from 5'8", that's where all my ability from reading the game comes in.
While the pair will be trying to make a show against Manly for the state selectors, they also hope to impress Australian coach Bob Fulton by taking home the win against the Sea Eagles.
Last night's auction at the Opal Cove Resort was to raise money to employ a full-time Sydney-based sales and marketing officer for the Coffs Harbour tourist industry. More than $64,000 worth of goods donated by Coffs Harbour businesses were auctioned by local identity Roger Price, including a second-hand car and a number of holidays. Organisers say more than $35,000 has already been raised, but the total amount won't be announced until Monday. Meanwhile, at Woolgoolga this morning, the Raj Mahal attraction auctioned more than $1 million worth of Indian artefacts. Owners are tightening the purse strings and turning the facility into a motel and restaurant. The drawcard of the auction was to be a locally made miniature train, but it was passed in as it failed to reach the reserve.
It could be any house in any suburban street, but behind the doors of this Thornton residence is a busy and thriving business. Linda and Philip Hellier are the owners and the only workers. Linda's day begins at 4 in the morning, whisking and baking their unique brand of homemade treats. The cakes and biscuits are cooked and packed in the kitchen at the back of the house. During any one week, Linda can turn out more than 1,000 cakes. While she's busy cooking, Philip delivers the goods. The treats are sold to 70 outlets from Taree to Sydney and throughout the Valley and Newcastle. Every day, Philip's on the road delivering, covering more than 1,400 kilometres a week. Philip and Linda admit it's hard work, but it's better than being unemployed, and the rewards are paying off.
I'd prefer to be managing it and having someone else do the work, but I don't mind it. It's okay. I just don't feel like cooking tea at night. I've had enough by then.
The recipes are of course secret, and so too is the method of getting square Anzac biscuits. The question though is, do they taste good? And we have it on good authority that once you get them open, they're not too bad at all.
Every day, about 35,000 vehicles drive along the F3 freeway between Sydney and the Hunter Valley. At present, there's only one service station beside the road. But all that's about to change. A new twin service centre near Wyong will take up the equivalent of 19 football fields. This service station complex will be the largest in the Southern Hemisphere. For starters, at any one time, there'll be the potential for 138 vehicles to fill up with petrol.
Well, the service centres are very large to cater for the traffic of the future.
Caltex hopes that when drivers heed the warning to stop, revive and survive, they'll do so here. To make it a little more comfortable, there'll be a restaurant which will seat up to 125 people, 33 toilets, a workshop and an information centre. But that's only half the story. The service station is duplicated on the other side of the freeway. When it's operational, the complex will employ more than 200 full-time and part-time staff. The Twin Service Centre was supposed to open in time for the Easter long weekend, but due to bad weather, it won't be pumping petrol until June. Jane Anderson, NBN News. Wally Gator was basking in the sunshine at the Australian Reptile Park today, seemingly unaffected by his ordeal.
He seems okay. I mean, you put a finger near him and he's ready to bite it, so I guess he's all right.
This American alligator was stolen from a reptile show in Sydney on March 16. When all hope of recovering him had faded, an anonymous phone caller told the reptile park he'd returned Wal to the complex, secretly dropping him over the fence.
It's like a stamp collector. He'll do anything to have a particular stamp, and some people will do anything to have a particular species of reptile, particularly if that reptile is It can't be had legally.
It's unknown why his captor released him, but maybe Wally's size is the key to his return. When Wall is full grown, he'll be about 5 metres long, which is a bit big for the average backyard. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
I can't sit for long periods.
These actors are the cast of Head Start, a play now touring primary schools in the Hunter and challenging the minds of 11-year-olds. The players have all suffered severe head injuries in horrific accidents. They take their audience through the various problems they've faced, from the months recovering in hospital to life as a new person in a different world.
They gain an insight into life by people who've nearly met death.
Under the guiding hand of artistic director Brian Joyce, there's time for questions.
Car crash and get brain damage. Are you likely to recover from it just a little bit or not?
While the production opens the way for better understanding, the actors also share the message of road safety.
Got to let them know that these things happen and it can happen to them, or it could happen to someone they love and that.
A little education so that when they do eventually drive, they'll be a little bit serious about driving and not tear around the streets.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
It may officially be autumn, but it sure feels like summer.
It's been great. The weather's magic.
Real ice cream eating temperatures on Monday and Tuesday. It was 32 degrees in the city, 34 at Gloucester. Figures from the Hunter Valley Research Foundation show it hasn't been this hot in Newcastle in April since 1986. Even the surf is warm, sitting on about 20 degrees. So why has the weather been this way?
A high pressure system, northern Tasman, generating warm northwesterly winds from Queensland through the northern parts of New South Wales. Biggest deviation would have been on the coastline, about 9 or 10 degrees above average, about 4 or 5 degrees above for the inland parts.
And the most important question, what about the weather over the next 4 days?
Looks like being sunny, cold nights, the days fairly mild on the coast and warm inland.
Good for the holidays?
Great for the holidays.
In super sedan racing, it's a case of standing up for your rights and going for what you want. And former New South Wales champion Bob Brewer won't be taking any backward steps. Bob is a member of the Newcastle team, ready to compete against Lismore. Tomorrow night will be the clash of the two most powerful and hot-headed teams in the country.
As soon as someone starts banging wheels, well, you know, tempers flare and anything could happen from then on.
They're calling it the New South Wales Team Championship, raced over a 12-lap international format. The teams look evenly balanced. Lismore may just have an edge, with the Aussie champion leading the way.
Granville Anderson's an Australian one, and he's a worthy champion. In my opinion, he is the best in Australia, and by gee, he takes a lot of running down.
Hundreds lined the streets of Nelson Bay as the locals who were extras in the shooting for Reckless Kelly arrived at Cinema 300 for their first glimpse of themselves on the big screen.
Nervous?
Yes, you could say so.
They received star treatment for a night, posing for photos and signing autographs. Taxi driver Peter Brown turned down a ride in a stretch limo for transport of his own. The star of the show, Yahoo Serious, formerly of Newcastle, was unable to attend the Nelson Bay premiere, but sent the cast a telegram and an autographed poster.
I thought Yahoo was a very genuine sort of a chap. I'm not saying that just because he comes from Newcastle, but no, he couldn't do enough for us. He was a real gentleman.
Parts of the film were shot in the Nelson Bay area and many residents were hired as extras. Filming took more than 4 months to complete. Thousands thronged to the bay to see the set, and for the cast it was an experience they'll never forget.
It's really good fun. And would you do it again? Oh yes, it's a chance of a lifetime.
Oh, it was terrific. I would have done it for nothing. I would have worked on that movie for nothing, just for the experience.
Easter is a time of renewal for the Christian faithful. It marks not only the crucifixion of Jesus, but the belief that he made the supreme sacrifice to wash away all earthly sins, and that he rose again to eternal life. This scene was repeated in churches in Newcastle and the Hunter as tens of thousands of Christians prayed in gratitude and hope.
For the great message of Easter is a message about hope. The fact of God's love being made visible to us in Jesus Christ, and the fact that he suffered, died, and we believe rose again to give us the hope that there is life forever. I hope that your Easter is one when you will truly appreciate that message of hopefulness for you and your family.
The guides are walking in the spirit of discovery and adventure to raise money for a number of charities. Some will walk for a few days, others for more than a week. 3,000 guides statewide are participating, setting out after flag-raising ceremonies such as this one in Newcastle.
At this very moment, the Governor of New South Wales is launching another party of guides from Circular Quay in Sydney to go on this great walk.
Most of our members will be taking part in the actual Great North Walk, but some in the country areas are doing their own walks around their own areas so that they will feel part of the event.
Local parliamentarians, parents and guides walked around Newcastle's historic foreshore as part of a trek that will take them along the coastline, suburbs and mountain tracks.